planet atop the incredibly dangerous but inaccurately named Mount Safety.
It's been 16 months. Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between and outwards to Film to Watch with Me Season 3. Back when I made this show 5 years ago, Oh my god, what do you mean, 5 years? It's been 5 years? Are you kidding me? Oh my god, I'm still doing this? After 5 years? Are you kidding? Are you fucking joking? Sorry, I got a bit emotional there. Back when I made this show 5 years ago, the very first episode I released was called Some of My Favorites, being about some of my favorites. That video sucks. Not only because it's kind of old, but also because some of my choices were questionable at best, and Camp Camp being my third favorite TV show at worst. But more than anything, I just don't like how I made it a top 5 list when in reality, only a month after the episode released, my opinion had changed nearly entirely. So going forward, every few years, I'm going to make a new installment of some of my favorites. Not only to talk about shows or films or projects that I like, but also ones that have stuck in my head long enough to where I feel like they are worth talking about. It doesn't have to be new, it doesn't have to be mainstream, it doesn't even have to be universally seen as good. They're just some of my favorites. But let's set some ground rules. The pacing of this video is going to be incredibly inconsistent. If you don't agree with a take I have, then I personally hate your guts, and just because I talk about a show or movie in passing, it doesn't mean I won't eventually talk about it in more detail. I intend to do this show for a very, very long time, meaning I've got plenty of time to talk about anything and everything. With that said, welcome to Film to Watch with Me, Season 3, baby! Woo! Now, first episode back, I've been itching to talk about this film ever since I saw it in cinemas in 2024, so let's not waste any more time and get right into the review. Alien is one of my all-time favorite films. Every rewatch, I discover something new about the writing, the characters, the cinematography, the horniness. The director, Ridley Scott, the guy likes to play mind tricks on you. The first guy we see exiting the cryopod, that's the main character, right? Wrong! It's a woman! Sent the masses of 1979 spiraling, I'm sure. But it's also a great misdirection. As the first act goes on, the script never focuses on one specific character. We do see more Ripley, sure, but we also see plenty of Ash, Lambert, Dallas, Kane, Brett, Parker. We see their relationships with one another on the ship, their thoughts on the job, and on their employer, Weyland-Yutani. It's only when they land with the mission to investigate an SOS beacon where the script latches onto Ripley like a terrified boyfriend at a movie theater, hoping to impress her with his bravery and testosterone and ability to not shit his pants at a horror film. Little did he know, it's 1979. He has a bias against women, and the person he's on a date with is Sigourney fucking Weaver, and let me tell you, her britches are clean. Sorry, what were we talking about? Right, the misdirection is just one thing I only recently realized made Alien so cool. The way it plays with the camera, its characters, the xenomorph, the tension, the environments, there's a cat, which is awesome. It's what keeps Alien as a timeless classic. But we aren't talking about Alien in this review. We're talking Romulus. When this teaser came out, I lost my fucking mind. The set design looked like it was ripped right out of Alien Isolation, the lighting was dark and moody, the cinematography was fast and intimate, and yeah, I was ready for this to enter my eyeballs. The film follows Rain Carradine, her brother Andy, and a bunch of other hot young people. As they venture out to an abandoned station in search for cryostasis equipment. Sucks for these guys because the cryofuel they're currently taking is keeping the facehuggers dormant. Some characters live and then die. Some characters die and then live. And some characters... What? What is that? What the f*** is that? First review of the new season, so I say we start out strong by gushing about the visuals because... God damn it, they're so good! Ow! Why do I always bash my head into the desk when I'm excited? I'm gonna start by talking about my favorite part of the visuals, the set design. It's perfect. Granted, I'm no alien historian, but I don't feel like it just replicates previous Alien films' retro-futuristic aesthetic. I think it outright improves on them. The Renaissance, the station most of the film takes place on, somehow manages to take the look and feel of the original film and make it feel modern. Back in the 70s, this was apparently what Ridley Scott thought futuristic spaceships would look like. Dark, boxy hallways with CRTs taped into the wall. Honestly, I kinda f*** with it. Reimagining a Weyland-Yutani station was obviously going to be a difficult task to pull off, but damn did Fede Alvarez and the visual production team do just that. The station's doors and walls are blocky and industrial, but due to the darkness of, all the shots, it makes everything feel tight and claustrophobic. The first time I felt like the film had aced the set design was in the facehugger cryo chamber. The terminals, the capsules holding the facehuggers, the door, it's great. You may shoot me, especially for this specific take, but this really does feel like the best it's ever been in the franchise. When the emergency lights kick on, the genius that handled the lighting in this film managed to make everything feel super bright red and pitch black at the exact same time. It sells the scene as the facehuggers break out of their funny little ice cubes and start jumping the crew. The other scene that matches it in quality is towards the end of the film, when Rain is taking out the security module out of Andy's head. This is such a vibe. Honestly, I'm just gonna let this scene play out. Watching this on a massive cinema screen was genuinely one of the coolest film-going experiences I've ever had in my life. I'm gonna procrastinate on the story because I know I won't shut the f*** up about it when I start, so music is good. There's two kinds of aesthetics that the score of this film plays with. The first is simply replicating the original film's sound so it fits into the universe, which the film's composer, Benjamin Wallfisch, does with flying colors. The other is electronic bangers. I love Benny Boy for this. Sorry, I won't say that again. Sadly though, I can't say that this was the highlight of the audio department in the film, because that award goes to the sound design! My god, does this film sound like horror movie heaven! The xenomorph snarls are loud and guttural, the horror stingers are sharp and terrifying, the computers, I'm not going to make a bold claim and say that this is the best sounding entry in the Alien franchise, because that still goes to Alien Isolation to me. But as far as we're concerned with films, yeah, this is the best. Okay, I've waited long enough! Let's talk about the story! Full disclosure, at the point of writing this script, I still haven't watched any Alien films from Alien 3 onwards, and there's a reason for that. My friends say they kinda sucked. With that said, god damn, this may be the best written Alien film since Aliens. Starting off strong here, the characters are great. Our lead lady, Rain, admittedly falls a little to the blander side. She just doesn't show much of a personality outside of the basic horror protagonist of bravery and compassion, aside from some banter with her brother Andy and a disdain for his jokes. With that said, Ripley in Alien 1 had the exact same core traits, but with a hatred for her crew instead. So really, I'm happy to say that she's good and move on. Speaking of Andy, he is an absolute blast. I love this guy. He's got the jokes.
Maybe it's because I'm on this seafood diet. Like seafood, I eat it.
It's so bad.
The moves, the smile, the autism. He's such an endearing character, and every minute with him is a total riot. Okay, maybe that's a little over the top. Tyler, he's cool. An all-rounder who cares about his team and feels guilt when his plan is the one to get them all brutally murdered and infected with funny little eggs. I do love this little scene he has with Andy after Bjorn tells him that they're going to leave him behind. Andy understands and Tyler's like, "You're a cool guy, Andy. Maybe we can go hit up some bars after this," before promptly blocking him on Discord. Speaking of Bjorn, this man is a bastard. Credit to his actor, Spike Fern, he does a really good job at making me want to punch the shit out of him, but to be fair, the script gave him a fairly good reason for his hatred towards Andy, that being his mum's death in a cave-in that a synthetic couldn't prevent from happening. While I hated the ever-living crap out of him, that was a part of the script, and I was bummed to see him die so soon into the film's runtime because he was becoming much more of an interesting character as time went on. Like, we never really got to see how he felt about Navarro's death because he himself bit the bullet not long after. Oh yeah, Navarro. She's cool. She's dead. I'll admit, this film didn't hook me in the first act. It was some nice world building, but it was slow. Walking, talking, establishing dead parents, Andy's an autistic robot, yeah, you get it. Even on the station, 40 minutes into the film's runtime, we're only now getting the first whiff of funny alien. It wasn't until the facehuggers escaped when this film stabbed me in the face. When shit goes to fuck and fuck goes to this is the moment when the film got me invested. The station will now collide with the asteroid belt below in an hour, the ship they need to escape on and their friends are on the other side of the station, and to make things extra cool and awesome and epic, there's a bloodthirsty alien hoping to stab your funny little face and lay eggs in your rotting corpse roaming around. Or 50. I know that's not how xenomorphs work, sit the fuck back down. I don't want you to get the impression that I don't like the first act. On rewatch, there's a lot of information that helps give these characters weight, and being able to see them interact more as friends, rather than as tasty snacks, makes me feel for Navarro, Kay, Tyler, hell, even Bjorn. I really wish we could have spent more time exploring the station, but on rewatches, I'm realizing how well this film does use its runtime. Plenty of character, plenty of horror, plenty of lore, and plenty of Andy. Something I love about Alien Romulus is that it feels like a perfect mix between the first two films, the horror of Alien and the action of its sequel. The scene where the facehuggers break out of cryostasis, for example, that scene is both scary and action-packed. A later scene where Rain, Andy, and Tyler are slowly walking through a hallway filled with the facehuggers they freed is tense. The scene of Kay being hunted by the xenomorph before being lifted away, skin crawling. Don't even get me started on that lanky fucker at the end. Ugh. This film does an amazing job at showing the horrors of childbirth, which, yeah, that explains a lot of the subtext, actually. The action, though? Man, the last 30 minutes of this film is all the explanation I need. Though both the cryostasis and facehugger hall scenes both add some action into the horror in a way that works really well. I do have one note. Look, Fede Alvarez, Alien Romulus is a visually stunning, well-acted, wonderfully scored movie that had me on the edge of my seat since the 30-minute mark and didn't let up until the very end. You and your team all did great. It does not need shitty callbacks to previous films! Look, I love a little bit of fan service, both the sexual and non-sexual kind, but when it's unnecessary, it becomes a big ulcer on the inside of my asshole, which is a disgusting image. Why did I say that? There are some that I don't mind, mainly lines from Rook, because it comes across less like a reference and more like pre-written lines Weyland-Yutani coded into his head. But this shit?
Get away from her. You bitch.
Okay. Andy has no idea who Ripley is, he has no idea what happened in the events of Alien and Aliens, and he has no f***ing idea that Ripley was protecting Newt, in which she said the iconic line, "Get away from her, you bitch." This doesn't just not make sense in the context of the film. This doesn't make sense in the context of the series, because Aliens hasn't happened yet. He's making a reference to a line that hasn't even been said in the canon of the universe. No, I will not accept he's saving Rain from the xenomorph as an excuse. Andy doesn't swear once in the entire film leading up to this line, and it's jarring as hell, and it's bad, and it honestly isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things, but it bugs me, because this film doesn't need it. This film is great. It doesn't need to fall back on dog shit references to films it worries are better than itself. Stop. Don't do that. But really? That's the only big negative that bugged me long after the film ended. There are some other aspects I didn't like that much, some crappy dialogue here, some breaking the canon of the series there, but never enough to make me outright dislike this film. But I don't want to end the first review of this video, and this season for that matter, with a low note, so let's finish it with a high. I want to talk about a scene an hour and 26 minutes into the film's runtime. This scene is so, I'll say it, perfect, that it deserves a section in this script all to itself. Let me set the stage. Everyone but Kay is dead, the station is about to crash into an asteroid belt, Rook has closed off the exit behind you so you have no chance of escape, and there are dozens of xenomorphs coming to kill you. Then your adopted brother makes a stupid joke about gravity.
I read a great book about zero gravity.
I just couldn't put it down.
And then you realize a way to level the playing field.
Turning off the gravity generator.
As the xenomorphs go for the attack, you fire your gun with the aim assist your friend told you about before their death, and you unleash hell on the beasts that have been hunting you since the second act. Problem: acid for blood. Mixed with the lack of gravity, the hall is now a swirling vortex of acid, and you've got moments before the gravity is turned back on and the blood boils through the floor and thrusts you into the vacuum of space. So you slowly maneuver through the acid and use some of your remaining ammo to push yourself away from its touch before making it to the other end and running into even more of the bastards. This scene is one of the coolest scenes ever, and I mean that. It's perfect. It's actually the definition of perfect. What, you don't believe me? Fine. See? Like, this isn't just one of the best scenes in the Alien franchise. This is one of the best scenes in a sci-fi film. It mixes all these elements from sci-fi and horror, all these story beats and threads and setups from earlier in the film's runtime up to this point, and executes this incredible scene just perfectly. It's perfect. It looks cool, it sounds cool, it's cool in the context of the script, you have no idea the smile I had on my face after this part finished. If you haven't watched this movie yet, go and watch this movie. If you have watched this movie, go and watch this movie. Again. All in all, Alien Romulus is a fantastic film. One I have and will happily continue to rewatch and be hooked on every single time. I only hope that whatever comes next in the series will be just as good. Apple TV is one of the weirdest streaming services out today. Like, I love Apple, asterisk. I hate the corporate side of things, and they can absolutely shove their complete lies about saving the planet up their ass when they purposefully destroy tech instead of reusing it. Oh, and then they say, oh, we have amazing software. You can tell me you make amazing software when you make basic features available in macOS. Like, oh, I don't know, a volume slider for individual software, which Windows and Linux have had for damn near 2 decades? Yes, I'm taking the time out of your day to complain about my preferred operating system of choice, but don't worry, I'm done. For now. With all that said, I do love their computers, both old and new, and Final Cut Pro is magic. They do make some good TV shouldn't be one of them. So the fact that Apple TV Plus is home to some of the best shows I've ever seen is insane. You've got the obvious choices, Ted Lasso, Silo, Severance. Then you've got some quieter, but still incredible shows. Shrinking, Mythic Quest, rest in peace. And one of my recent favorites, The Studio. Created by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, Peter Hike, Alex Gregory, and Frida Perez. Isn't it crazy how Seth Rogen has just completely popped off over the last few years? Like, he's been working on some of the coolest shows and movies I've ever seen, and The Studio might be his best contribution to my dopamine receptors yet. The Studio follows Matt Remick and his team as they try and make great movies with even greater profits. The episodes are mostly self-contained, with elements from past episodes popping back up every now and again, but you could put on any one of these episodes, aside from the last two since it's a two-parter, and have a good time. And God, you will have a good time. This show is amazing. The first aspect of The Studio that grabs my attention and doesn't let up for the entire season's run is the pacing of, well, everything. The writing, the comedy, the music, the acting, the cinematography, all of it is so fast and fluid, and it's always moving on to the next thing. Let's start with that first one, the writing. There are two sides to nearly every episode, sometimes both. The personal side that focuses on the characters and their internal thoughts, traumas, and desires, and the commentary side that looks towards the movie industry, the fans, and everything in between. For example, in episode 7, Casting, Matt and his crew run into a problem when Maya, the head of marketing, realizes that people might perceive the Kool-Aid Man being played by Ice Cube, a black man, as racist. And if you haven't watched the show and only know it through the words I've spoken in this script, you're probably wondering what the f I'm on, and the answer is an old school Hollywood buffet. The episode explores the main crew as they constantly overthink how people will react, overcorrecting in the funniest way possible, by making every actor in the movie black until Quinn, the creative executive, notices that now it's definitely racist. This episode is funny as hell, definitely one of my favorites in the season. The following episode, The Golden Globes, looks more inward to the character of Matt and his personal anxieties and desires. At the opening of the episode, we hear a conversation between Matt and his mom, with her excited but also pressuring for Matt to have his name read aloud on national TV so that she can gloat about it to her friends. The episode then follows Matt as he desperately tries to get Zoe Kravitz to thank him in her awards speech. Matt's character throughout the season is one constantly looking for validation from his peers, not just wanting, but needing to be liked, and doing whatever he can to get that. But in this episode, he's doing all this for the validation from his own mother. And when his plan fails and his mom says the equivalent of "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed," you feel really bad for the guy. It says a lot about Matt's character so far in the show, and shows that his need for people to like him runs deeper than just some personal anxieties, and it does all of this while being funny as hell. The joke about Sal being thanked after every single acceptance speech just because he let Adam Scott crash on his couch as a way to just piss off Matt was honestly really funny. And what makes it even better is that Adam Scott did actually sleep on the actor's couch. Ike Barinholtz's couch. That's a real story. On that note, the comedy in this show is so well done, and that's high praise considering I hate cringe humor, to the point where I would skip through half the jokes in The Office out of pure ugh. The cringe humor is definitely my least favorite part of the comedy in this show, but with that said, it's still done really well, especially when the acting is as amazing as it is. Spoken word lines are usually delivered in a tight but goofy manner, somehow without making too many references to films, and there was a surprising amount of visual jokes. It's a lot of Matt getting hurt, but still really good stuff. Man, don't even get me started on the cameos throughout this 10-episode run. Oh my god, they may have some of the funniest subplots and jokes in the entire show. Imagine being the guy that goes home, makes dinner, sits down with their family, and says, "I wrote a script today where my character makes Martin Scorsese cry." They make some of these massive names in Hollywood do the funniest shit. Like, okay, the missing reel sees Matt and Sal Saperstein, thank you, track down a missing reel of film for Olivia Wilde like it's a detective noir movie. The episode has a bunch of great bits. The running gag of Matt recording voiceovers like he's a detective, the bickering between Matt and Sal, and then it all comes together to what might be one of the funniest conclusions of the show. The big reveal that the film was stolen by Olivia Wilde. Why did she steal it? Because she thought that the scene would have been way cooler if there was a machine gun. That's why. The fact that Olivia Wilde agreed to play this ridiculous, villain-esque version of her character just adds to the melting pot of humor that this show is so good at cooking up. Perfect time to talk about the music, baby, yeah! Antonio Sanchez popped the off with this soundtrack. Oh my god. Some tracks are smooth, like Ice Cube Is Gone and Presenting to Griffin Mill. Some are tense, like We're Not So Different and Trailer Crisis. And all of them sound incredible. Follow Me / America's Population has this amazing bass line that thumps at my headphones before breaking into this chaotic flurry of drums. Temple of Cinema is a bouncy track that only uses drums, but it damn near fooled me of thinking that it was a full band with how much was going on. Surrounded / We're Not So Different is this atmospheric, dramatic song that swirls with piano keys and violin strings. And Too Close to the Edge, the last song on the soundtrack, honestly feels like a closing track for what's been built up to at this point. The full band is here for a 6.5-minute long run of jazzy, bouncy, hard-hitting, what the fuck do you mean the full band is Antonio Sanchez? This album genuinely hooks me in to the point where I forget that I'm listening to a soundtrack and not a pure jazz record. He better be coming back if the studio gets a second season, or I swear to God, Seth Rogen, I will burn my copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, or my name isn't Jack Film to Watch With Me Patet! Oh hey, speaking of Seth Rogen, let's talk about the acting. Seth Rogen as Matt Remick is perfect. He captures this awkward yet trying to be professional character to a T. Chasue Wonders plays Quinn, and she might be my favorite actor of the cast. Her energy is spot on every single time, and she has some of my favorite line deliveries in this show. Ike Barinholtz plays Sal Saperstein, and you're gonna see a repeating theme here, he's great. His acting for Sal during the whole show is great, but I gotta admit, I think his best performance was in the Golden Globes. Sal's over-the-top personality is pushed even further, which might be because of that previously mentioned Adam Scott "Thank You Sal Saperstein" joke, but who knows? Kathryn Hahn plays Maya Mason, and every single line she speaks, every motion she performs, it's amazing every single time. Those are the big four I wanted to talk about, but as some honorable mentions, we've got Catherine O'Hara who plays Patty Lee. So Catherine O'Hara sadly passed away during the making of this video. I can't speak on her acting career as a whole, but I can comment on her performance in the studio. Funny as f***. She hit the emotional highs and nailed every joke or snide remark that came out of the character's mouth. Amazing work, and I can't wait to check out the rest of her career. Rest in peace to Catherine O'Hara. Dwayne Perkins who plays Tyler, Bryan Cranston who plays Griffin Mill, and man, he may not be an actor, but Ron Howard playing this evil, twisted version of himself in episode 3 might have been one of the best things he's ever done. I loved every single second he was on screen, and he matched the energy of the rest of the cast so well. A quick mention about the cinematography: a comedy series starring Seth Rogen has no excuse of being shot this well. The camera's always moving, panning between characters, flicking towards the action, even if it's in a conference room. The director of photography, Adam Newport-Bera, chose a camera that already had a filmic look to it, which does an amazing job of making the visuals feel more chaotic, or at moments, somber and emotional. Every scene they shot was done as a one-er, which for those who don't know is a scene in a film or show where it's all done in one take, and it just adds to the frantic energy I mentioned previously. The pinnacle of this being, no surprise here, episode 2, The One-er. Sorry to break it to you, Santa Claus isn't real, and this episode isn't actually one single take. It's a collection of single takes cleverly stitched together into an episode that looks like one. That doesn't change the fact that it's insanely impressive work. One that flows and is paced really well and manages to be downright hilarious while it's at it. All in all, the studio is one of the most impressive shows I've watched ever. It's a funny, incredibly well-written show with amazing pacing, a banging soundtrack, a superb cast, creative cinematography, and is one more reason why I don't completely hate Apple as a company. Because at least if they're going to piss on my MacBook before telling me to get a new one, I can watch the studio on it afterwards. The only thing that would make me like them more is if they announced season 2 of the studio! Yeah! Rick and Morty is a show that I don't see anybody talk about today, and honestly, it's probably for a good reason. I'm not going to be a unique little snowflake in saying that seasons 1 and 2 are amazing seasons of television, because everybody has already said that, and they are. Then season 3 happened, and the quality dropped faster than you can make a joke about that episode, but I'm better than that, and I'm not going to. Season 4 had some strong points, but definitely felt like it had less of a direction, and season 5 was basically the same, but with higher highs and lower lows. But it didn't just drop in quality, it dropped in popularity too. Rick and Morty in 2017 was a cultural phenomenon. You could not live or breathe on the internet without hearing about this show. You didn't have a choice. And when season 3 aired, it just kept that train a-rolling. Adult Swim had a cash cow in the form of Rick and Morty. If they kept the hype train going, they could have made millions, maybe even billions in profit. They could have taken over the world. Oh shit. Yeah, the year-and-a-half wait basically destroyed any momentum that they had built up leading out of season 3. The long wait, added with the drop in quality, killed most people's perception of the show. Well, that and its audience. Again, not going to name any particular examples, the point is that ever since then, no one watches this show, no one talks about this show, and no one thinks about this show, lest you get branded as cringe and a loser and gay negative. But guess what? Rick and Morty has actually been picking up in quality. Like, a lot. There's a reason I'm specifically talking about season 6 and 7, and it's because they are genuinely good seasons of TV that I mostly enjoyed. Enough to talk about in this video at least. Season 6 is probably the best batch of episodes we've gotten since season 2, and in some ways felt like a return to form of what Rick and Morty's core was in its earliest seasons. The family dynamics and drama are back. 6 out of the 10 episodes focus on the whole Smith family, using sci-fi to tie them all together. Bethic Twinstinct sees Beth and Space Beth start a romance? Or is self-care dicking down your clone? Jokes aside, this is a great episode for Beth. It explores her narcissism and self-image in an interesting way that, again, ties itself to the sci-fi premise of the show and led to some great jokes that had me exhaling through my nose at worst and outright laughing at best. And the way their relationship tangles with the rest of the families was a fun storyline that we hadn't seen before. Analyze Piss is not only a great episode for Rick, but the family dynamic is back in full swing as Jerry becomes all-powerful and brings the rest of the Smith family along for the ride. Jurassic Mort sees Earth's old rulers, dinosaurs, come back to Earth and make it a utopia, where no one has to do any work whatsoever. And you can really tell that Rick and Morty is a fictional cartoon because in this episode, people are bored and sad because of it. That is bullshit. The episode follows Rick and Morty trying to get the dinos to leave so capitalism can go back to working its magic, but in the Smith house, we see the rest of the family struggling with the change. Beth feels useless, Summer feels unseen, and Jerry publishing a full book that he's really proud of just for his name to be completely scrubbed by the dinos might be the most evil thing the show has ever done. I don't know whether to laugh at it or genuinely feel bad for him. Both! I can do both! The absolute best episode of the season, though, has got to be episode 4, Night Family. Rick brings back a somnambulator, an alien device that programs your unconscious body to do tasks while you sleep, what is quickly called night people. But as the days go on, the night people begin to hate their working conditions and end up fighting back against the day family by destroying their dishes, force-feeding Rick last night's green beans? And finally, enslaving the day family to do the tasks that the night family were forced to do before. The only reason they break out is because Day Jerry had developed a bond with Night Jerry who sets them free. Then Morty happens, and Night Summer sets a bunch of robots on their tails as they make an escape. Then begins, honestly, one of the coolest action sequences in the entire show. I mean, this shit is mesmerizing. The last run of the episode sees a constant chase and struggle between the Day and Night family, as they knock one another in and out of consciousness while speeding down roads and highways. It's fast-paced, it's action-packed, and it kicks ass. The action ends when Night Summer sends the family crashing into a rail, launching the Smiths out of the car and into a constant back and forth until only Rick is alone. They pin him down, sleeping dart in hand, and give him two options. Simply rinse their dishes after eating so it makes that one job easier on the Night family, or was there even a point in explaining the second option? Then they drive off into the sunset as credits roll. The only reason the Night family give in the end is because day life became too much of a struggle with jobs and bills and not having ripped abs. So they destroy the somnambulator, killing themselves, but returning the day family back to normal. Night Family might be one of my all-time favorite Rick and Morty episodes, and is my favorite episode from season 6. It's the perfect blend of sci-fi and family drama in a horror-tinted 22-minute TV episode. With that said, season 6 does have a few episodes where the family dynamic isn't as present. But those episodes still fuck. Episode 2, Rick, a Mort Well-Lived, revisits the Roy game from back in season 2, but with a twist. Morty's mind has been split over a couple billion NPCs, so Rick hacks into the game in an attempt to free him. Meanwhile, Summer does a Die Hard? The A-plot is both a cool sci-fi story, while also being a great character study on both Rick and Morty. The B-plot gets a lot of shit, but honestly, Summer walking around shooting people while saying random lines not from Die Hard, but about Die Hard because she hasn't seen it, is kind of funny to me. Season 6 is then rounded off with Rictional Mortpoon's Rickmas Mortcation, the Christmas episode and season finale. I actually don't have too much to say about this one. The A-plot follows Morty, Robot Rick, and the President trying to stop a lightsaber from falling into the Earth's core after Morty dropped it perfectly f***ing vertical. And I'll be real, I just thought the joke was really funny. All in all, Season 6 is a great season of Rick and Morty, and the best run of episodes since Season 2. It felt like, finally, the show was getting back on the right path. And then Justin Roiland was outed as a piece of shit. And then the voice actors got replaced. So I want to get this part of the review done and dusted right away. Do the new voice actors fit? Yes. In fact, I think both Harry Belden and Ian Cardone have a bit more range in their respective characters than Roiland did, and by the end of the season, they fit the characters like a glove. Despite how good the voice acting was though, the best aspect of Season 7 was still the writing. Sadly, the family drama card was underplayed compared to Season 6, but was made up for in character development and some great sci-fi concepts. The Jerick Trap might forever be my favourite underrated episode of this show. It takes the body swap idea that every animated show ever has done at least once and flips it on its head to where Rick and Jerry aren't swapped, but shuffled. And while the two are obviously pissed off at one another at the beginning, they eventually become a buddy duo who steals drugs from the mob and go on cool chase scenes. It's really sweet, actually, to see Rick and Jerry getting along so well. And some of the jokes in this episode f***ing killed me. Air Force Wong sees the return of Unity as she's heard that Rick is hunting down his wife's murderer again and tries to get his attention in a panic. The episode looks at Rick's relationship and feelings towards her, and man, I don't give a fuck about this being one of the lower rated episodes of the show. I love how it's written. Especially the ending. That's a Morty explores vegetarianism? I think? Morty finds out that the spaghetti they've been eating every night actually comes from people who have offed themselves on a different Earth-like planet. The episode goes into chaos when Morty lets this information loose, or outright fucking shouts it from the rooftops, causing the planet's president to basically hand everybody a length of rope and specify that it's not to get freaky with. The conflict ends when one final person kills themselves and projects their memories for everybody to see to a beautiful cover of Live Forever by Oasis, performed by Kotomi and Ryan Elder. And then they vomit. With all that said, there are two big episodes that everybody loves from this season. Unmort Rickon and Fear No Mort. Truthfully, I don't have much to say about the former. The first half of the episode is kind of a Saw parody where Rick Prime traps our Rick and Morty. The second half of the episode is the big fight between Rick and Rick Prime. It's a cool sequence, but when our Rick and Evil Morty wins is when this episode becomes truly great. Rick punches Rick Prime to death as the latter shouts and screams through the blood he's coughing up. The scene really shows the talent that Ian Cardone has. Fear No Mort, though? Yeah, this episode is a classic, easily one of the best of the entire show. It was funny, it was dramatic, and was a great character study of Morty, which 7 seasons in was reassuring to say the least. A reminder that this show still has more to say for itself. These 2 seasons are far from perfect. There are still some underutilized concepts, unfunny meta jokes, and for some reason, Season 7 had only 9 out of the 10 episodes that we usually get, which is weird. And I'm sorry, but every single time a character makes a joke, comment, or snide remark about not wanting to do serialization or tell an actual story, I feel my patience wearing thin. I'm tired of the writers making this fan-hating dialogue because God forbid they got into the story that you fucking set up. I'm sick of it. I'm tired. You want out? Then fucking quit! What? Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my all-time favorites. Yeah! How many times are you assholes gonna kick my door in this episode? How many times are you gonna review the same film? What? I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, the first ever episode of this show, you made a review on Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then you made a whole other video about Fantastic Mr. Fox. So why, now, of all times, are you making yet another review on Fantastic Mr. Because we don't talk about season 1, Jack! Me? Yeah? Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my all-time favourite films, and has stayed that way since I was a little babby. I remember sitting in the front seat of my parents' car at a car boot sale. It's a British thing, don't worry about it. Watching the cool Foxman voiced by George Clooney on my mother's mobile telecommunication device, and replaying it religiously ever since. There's a magic to the world Wes Anderson cooked up that I haven't seen anything like since, even when Wes did the same animation style in The Isle of Dogs. Another great film, by the way. I'm ashamed to say it, but I f*** with Wes Anderson's film style. Sorry everyone, I'm pretentious. But this entire film, from start to finish, just glows with personality. The screenplay is so well written, so tightly tuned. Every character feels unique in their personalities. Every piece of dialogue feels like it was written to have a direct purpose with no wasted beats. Mr. Fox is a prime example. I love how Wes and co-writer Noah Baumbach explores these themes of greed, insecurity, and being true to yourself, but what that means for the others around you. All through the title character in only an hour and 20 minutes. Hell, even without those themes, they did what every writer should do at a minimum and just made the character fun to watch and enjoy. The cast of side characters are equally as fun, memorable, and interesting, especially Ash, who's basically this film's second main focus. While comedy isn't this film's goal, it's still really funny at times, especially with how these characters interact with one another. I love that in place of cuss words, since they can't say shit and piss and fuck because it's a family film, they just say the word cuss instead. On the flip side of the comedy, there are some dramatic scenes that just punch you in the gut. This scene in the mineral deposit, this one between Mr. Fox and Ash in the sewers, and one that has always sent me into a different plane of reality even when I was short and dumb. What, like yesterday? The scene between Mr. Fox and the wolf. The soundtrack, animation, and dialogue all come together for a scene that kinda comes out of left field. It feels like an out-of-body experience in the context of the script, but this movie wouldn't be the same without it, as Foxy looks on at a part of himself that he wants to, but never could be. A pure, wild animal with no societal strings. A creature that does not just as it wants to, but as it needs to for survival. An ambiguous conclusion to Mr. Fox's personal growth as a character, as they share a sign of mutual respect. I feel kinda like a pretentious asshole for saying this, but cinema. Pure fucking cinema. Okay. Let's talk about the amazing animation. Admittedly, I haven't watched a ton of stop-motion animation yet. Just this, My Life as a Courgette, Isle of Dogs, Wallace and Gromit, The Goat, Coraline, Shaun of the Sheep movie? But there's a unique flair to Fantastic Mr. Fox that just puts it a cut above the rest. I think it's this weird texture on the characters that feels both fuzzy and rough at the same time, the jagged and at times over-exaggerated movements they make, and how the deadpan delivery of the dialogue influences lip syncing. It's kinda weird, but I love it. I eat the shit up. Especially in higher action scenes where the characters are moving around a lot more. There's a couple visual gags I love too. Kylie's zone-outs, the skeletons of characters being shown when electrocuted, when Mr. Fox compliments Mrs. Fox by saying that she's glowing, and then we cut to her, and she's literally a different model, now glowing. You can tell the team had fun with this, while also flexing their animation muscles and making one of the most beautiful stop-motion films I've ever seen. Quick mention of the voice cast, they all do great. George Clooney brings the, prestigious tone to the classy Mr. Fox, but does an equally great job of bringing the emotional but guarded man out. Mrs. Fox is voiced by Meryl Streep. I don't know what my favourite scene is in terms of her performance. It's either the slow, emotionally gut-punching scene in the mineral deposit where she scratches Foxy and cries as she asks why he lied to her and put them all in a situation where they might die. Or Contact! Jason Schwartzman voices Ash, and he's good. Perfectly brings the energy to this rowdy but moody teenage kid. Wallace Wolodarski as Kylie is perfect. I love every line delivery out of this guy. No notes. Willem Dafoe voices Rat, and that's just a funny sentence in and of itself. Though, yeah, he also does a really good job. There's a bunch more actors, but you kind of get the pattern here. They all do great, so we can just move on to the music. The soundtrack can be divided into two parts. Pre-existing songs mainly from the 1950s and 1960s, and the original score composed by Alexander Desplat. The pre-existing songs, all bangers. I mean, come on, can you not imagine yourself dancing and or fucking to this in the club? Born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, greenest state in the land of the free. Davy Crockett. The songs by Desplat are goofy, somber, and gorgeous. Mr. Fox in the Fields is a complete jam. Bean Secret Cider Cellar and Just Another Dead Rat in a Garbage Pail Behind a Chinese Restaurant are better Western confrontational songs than most Western soundtracks have. And this movie takes place in the woods, so that's saying something. And the somber, spacey ending on the latter as Rat dies downright shook me as a kid. Little Jack experienced death that day. Great Harrodsford Square and Stunt Expo 2004 are the tracks that play at the big final confrontations between Foxy and the farmers, and it is tense. It's action-packed. It brings back the Boggis Bunsen Bean chants from earlier in the film. I'm gonna play this shit at my funeral. I'm gonna play this shit at my divorce signing. I'm gonna play this shit at my circumcision. I'm gonna play this shit at my court hearing on February 29th, 2029. And finally, Conus Lupus. I feel kind of like a pretentious asshole for saying this, but music. Pure fucking music. Fantastic Mr. Fox is amazing. Go and watch it, go and love it, and return back to me with your fursuit.
I just had a brainstorm for something fantastic I've got to do, but I can't do it alone.
Say that again?
Fantastic.
Yes, it is.
Joe Pera Talks With You is a show about a guy who talks about iron, beans, jack-o'-lanterns, starting a fire, snowmobiles, grocery shopping, building chairs, and many more different topics. It's also one of my favourite shows. Over the last few years, I had heard about Joe Pera occasionally, especially with how much I was getting into the Adult Swim sphere, but I'd never checked him out myself, and I didn't up until one night when I was watching the Needle Drops interview with Quadeca. What came up next was an interview he did with the man himself, Joe Pera. Listening to the first few minutes of the interview, Anthony brought up both his Adult Swim show and a special called Slow and Steady, the latter of which I checked out first. Right off the bat, I was both intrigued and hooked by the fact that people were going absolutely fucking crazy over a guy who just chugged a bottle of water while talking at a rate of 4 miles per hour. His jokes were wholesome, personal, and slow. And steady. It's a great special, by the way. You can watch it on YouTube for free. This made me wonder, what the hell does the show look like then? The first I watched was a clip from Season 2, Episode 5, Joe Pera Takes You to the Grocery Store. It's just Joe Pera, the character, talking about how he buys his groceries. I'm immediately hooked. The next clip I watched was Joe Pera dancing to Baba O'Reilly by The Who. He's washing up dishes while listening to a rock radio station, and as the song plays, he stops. And he just enjoys it. After the song ends, he excitedly calls the radio station asking what the song was. He spends the rest of his night calling other radio stations, drinking wine, eating ice cream right out of the bucket, and just having fun. He even invites the pizza guy to come and dance with him. And when you see the two running around the living room from the window, I just... What the fuck, man? You wanna know what gets me emotional? It was BoJack Horseman's episode The View from Halfway Down that made me tear up. It was the end of David Tennant's original run of The Doctor that got me all emotional. It's this line from The World's End.
That is not my idea of a good time.
And this is?
They told me when to go to bed!
That perfectly encapsulates the struggles of the main character and is actually acted so well that it genuinely feels like it shifts what plane of reality I'm on. These are the tail end of adventures, character arcs, and stories that have been built up over the whole movie in the case of The World's End, and multiple seasons for the other two. Joe Pera dances to The Who, and I'm out! I'm done! KO! This is the first time I cried at Joe Pera doing something completely normal, but it certainly is not the last. Oh my dog. The first season of Joe Pera Talks With You is incredible. Spoilers for the rest of this review, but it's my favorite out of this show's 3-season run. It's 9 episodes of all killer, no filler, if the cause of death was wholesomeness. I really do love every single episode in this season, but I'm only going to talk about a few of my favorites. Joe Pera Takes You to Breakfast is the first episode I watched in full that also made me shed actual tears, and once again, I do not know why. The episode follows Joe Pera as he walks around a diner, meeting the different residents of Marquette and seeing what they got for breakfast, wondering what he himself should order. The next episode, Joe Pera Takes You on a Full Drive, is the first in the series that I deem a must-watch. The episode sees Joe struggling with his emotions and regrowing his soul after giving a piece of it away to a jack-o'-lantern. It's really low tempo, really somber, and the last minute is downright beautiful and once again has me bawling. Not like that, but like this. It's a gorgeous episode, and I think if there's any that you should watch to tell if you'd like the show, this is the one. The episode also introduces us to Sarah, Joe's romantic interest going forward. Joe Pera Reads You the Church Announcements is the same episode where he dances to Baba O'Reilly, and this is great. Not only does the scene of Joe and the pizza guy dancing send me into tears still after watching this episode like 15 times over, but the rest of its runtime is an adorable exploration of finding something new that you love and sharing it with the people you love. But I think the real 1-2 punch of the last 2 episodes really completes the season and takes Joe Pera Talks With You from a great show to a story worth watching. Joe Pera Talks to You about the rat wars of Alberta, Canada, 1950 to present day, follows Joe and Sarah working together to make a musical about the rat wars of Alberta, Canada, 1950 to present day. What, did the title not make that obvious enough? I had to explain that to you? In the back half of the episode, Joe gets increasingly frustrated with the quality of his speech before the show, which he feels is necessary for people to enjoy the production. But Sarah tells him to just say hello, point to the fire exits, and leave. Which he doesn't do because, damn it, they've got to know about the different barbaric methods of murdering rats! Joe is upset by this and confronts Sarah about it after the show, to which she responds about some topics that Joe Pera hadn't talked with us about yet. Like war, rising water levels, population displacement, drones, attacks on the power grid. Big knife. The final episode of the season, Joe Pera Answers Your Questions About Cold Weather Sports, is about Joe struggling with the terrifying state of the world that Sarah previously woke him up to. It's double the length of a normal episode at 22 minutes, it's the first time the story directly follows a previous episode, it has these cool but anxious dream sequences of Joe running after Sarah on a snowmobile, and it's mostly serious throughout its runtime. Don't get me wrong, there are some really funny jokes still in here. It's one of the show's strong suits, being able to bring a random joke out of nowhere that doesn't break the tension of the scene but just uplifts it. They mastered this in the first season, it's crazy. But this episode is definitely toned down in comedy compared to the others. The first 10 minutes follow Joe in this anxious, depressed state. Not only is he overthinking about the state of the world and how bleak a lot of it is, but he's also worried about his relationship with Sarah. He talks to his neighbor, his nana, even his students about what they think about the world. But after his conversation with his nana, he goes to Sarah's house to apologize, and after doing so, asks if he can see her fortified basement.
Yeah.
The last half of this episode is about Sarah showing Joe her fortified basement, all the canned goods and medical supplies, the throwing knives, the cinnamon whiskey, and they bond over it. They drink whiskey, do push-ups with bags of rice on them, do drill exercises, make pasta in a bag, and just have fun together. Sarah lets down her metaphorical walls with Joe, showing her comfort for and around him. And in one of the final scenes of the episode, Joe opens up to her, showing Sarah what he brought to survive in the wild.
What's in the suitcase?
Sheet music.
That's what you packed to fake survive.
Yep.
And this is amazing because this sheet music is clearly important to Joe, and as the viewer, we know it is because he showed them to us and Joe Pera talks you back to sleep. And now he's showing Sarah and The last book he shows her is about whistling with different objects, which she joins in on by tooting a horn at the end of every verse. A piece of grass, an acorn cap, a willow shoot, a round tin can, Love does exist! This episode is great and finishes the first season on a really high note. I'm not going to talk about the big story arcs of the rest of the show, simply due to this video being long enough as is, but with its whole runtime being only 7 hours, you might as well give it a shot. It has tons of amazing episodes. Joe Pera takes you to the grocery store, Joe Pera helps you write, Joe Pera sits with you, Joe Pera shows you his second fridge, Joe Pera discusses school-appropriate entertainment with you, and Joe Pera takes you for a flight are some of my highlights. Seasons 2 and 3, while not being my favourite of the show, are still incredible seasons of TV, especially the ending for Joe Pera builds a chair with you. I'm sad that the show got cancelled after this, but if nothing else, this is a beautiful image to end on. There's an openness and comfort to this show that I can't fully describe in words. In the first season, each episode feels so focused on its subject matter while also giving you insight into Joe as a person. Episode 2 is all about breakfast and the different foods he finds at a restaurant, learning random factoids along the way. But through the episode, we learn more about the people Joe knows, and more about how Joe himself views the world. Episode 4 is mainly about his co-worker's wedding, but through that, we see Joe and Sarah's relationship start and learn about his anxiety in crowds, before challenging that anxiety and dancing in front of everybody in the venue. It's fun, it's sweet, and by the end you're cheering for Joe just like everyone else is. And what's amazing about the writing of the entire show is that the comedy is weaved in perfectly. It's this weird case where the comedy comes out of nowhere and gives you whiplash, but because the lines from Joe are usually in the same slow and soft tone, it takes you a minute to fully process what he just said, before you burst into laughter because what he just said was f***ing hilarious. And this is all told by a cast of down-to-earth, calming, and interesting characters. Man, I've barely even talked about the characters yet. Fuck dude, I love Joe Pera, the character. Well, okay, the real-life comedian too, fucking love that video of the squirrel and the Dr. Pepper, that was the tits! Joe Pera, the character, is amazing. What I love about how he's written is that he doesn't have everything figured out. He's constantly learning and growing, sometimes being challenged by new scenarios or things he's uncomfortable with. The ending of season 3 was where Joe as a character was the most interesting to me, but all around he's fun, unique, and a great lens to view the world in. Sarah was fun, up until the end of season 1, in which she became fun and interesting. I love how her anxieties are explored in season 3 especially. That's when she was at her best. She kinda sticks out in this world of Joe Pera, but in a way that adds to it and makes the watching experience so much more interesting than it would have been otherwise. Jean, while not having many big emotional arcs throughout the show, is a really fun support character who bounces off of Joe super well. That episode where they go to Milwaukee is one of my favorites, and for good reason. The chemistry these two have with each other is so sweet and heartwarming. I love them. There's not one singular Melski here that I specifically want to mention, so I'll just talk about the whole family. I love how they're the straight men to Joe's weirdness while still getting involved with his antics, or letting him get involved in theirs and respecting his opinion. Sometimes. They're also just really funny. Especially Mike. The chemistry between actors Connor O'Malley and Joe Pera is a match made in heaven. I love when they're in the same room together, especially when Joe's energy of an old granddad and Connor's energy of a frat fuckboy clash so well. On that note, the acting. We've already covered Joe and Connor, so Joe Firestone plays Sarah Connor, and my brain just... There's a lot of Joes and a lot of Connors. She perfectly brings this goofy, quirky, calming, and at times anxious energy to her. Every scene she's in is a treat. I love Gene Kelly, the actor who, coincidentally, plays Gene. He's got this silky, smooth, calming tone to his voice where he kind of sounds like he's blatantly talking to an audience on a TV show, but that feels intentional. Like, all of his lines sound kind of overemphasized, and I love that. Something I'd also like to note is that this guy was not an actor before the show. His career was spent as a camera operator. I don't know who saw this guy's past work and thought, yeah, put him in one of the best shows of all time, but they did, and I'm happy about that choice. The rest of the side characters have good actors playing their roles too, though the only one I really want to outright mention here is Sue Melski, played by Joe Scott. Dude, why are there so many Joes in this show? She plays her role as a pissed off wife and caring mother really well, and some scenes she has with Joe are honestly really sweet. Oh, and of course, Fred's the sample guy.
Je veux remercier Monsieur Pera.
I don't know what that means.
While I don't have much to say on the cinematography, I will say this. It's simple but effective, and perfectly fits the show and its storytelling. It's close and homey and relaxing and just pure visual bliss at times. Very important question though. Do you want to hear what pure bliss sounds like? I want to clarify, I don't mean the best. I don't think the compositions are better than other soundtracks or even more interesting than other soundtracks. But in terms of what the music tries to achieve in the context of the show, I think this is perfect. Some tracks like The Adventures of Otto and The Grocery Store are fun, but others like Nana Theme, Full Loop, The Domes, Joe Pera Sits With You, both the intro and outro, Over Marquette, and Up the Slope are beautiful songs that I've listened to dozens of times over. Especially the Freezer Isle and Up the Slope. I love those songs. I'm so happy that Ryan Dan is still working with Joe Pera on his Sleep podcast. Seriously, that guy does amazing work. Joe Pera Talks With You would not be complete without this soundtrack. To conclude my thoughts on this, I want to tell you about what Joe Pera Talks With You means to me. Because, yeah, I cried at the beginning for reasons I still don't know and may or may not keep me up at night, but what this show means to me now is so much more. Now, I'm gonna get a bit personal here, so you'll have to forgive me. And also, deal with it, it's my video. The last few years for me have been rough. Hell, probably for everyone right now. There's wars going on, AI is still kicking around, and rising costs are making my ability to buy a fucking one-bedroom house damn near impossible. But also, personally, I've just had a lot going on. This very long gap between episodes, I wasn't spending that time making the new episodes you're about to watch. I spent it depressed and distracted. The former due to shit hitting the fan in 2025, and the latter because I don't know. I've always found it hard to focus. I still do. I've been trying to find ways around it, and some things help, but never fix my issue. I've tried disabling the internet, putting distractions in a box, setting timers, blocking out my day, and yet I'm still constantly distracted. This whole video that you've just watched, do you know how long I've been working on it? I recorded most of the voiceover for this episode in August of 2025. This should have been done long ago. Past me would have finished it long ago. I made a 3-hour video in one summer, and I couldn't even make a 1-hour episode in 3 seasons. I should have finished this shit by now. It should be out. It should have been out long ago. It should be great. Making videos and writing scripts should be my job. I want it to be my job. I've always wanted that to be my job. I've loved creating for so long. So why can't I just focus on the things I love to do and make the f***ing videos? Right. My reason for venting on main is to make the point that Joe Pera Talks With You helped me a lot last year. So many of these episodes are spent focusing on the smaller things in life, whether it be listening to your partner's drunk story, or growing beans, or simply going on a full drive. And sometimes I need to remember that those things are incredibly important, more than I realize. Joe Pera reminds me to, sometimes, just sit down. Have fun with a small part of this massive life I have, that we all have, and just be. To make this the sappy ending of the episode we all know it should be, Joe Pera talked with me, and what I learned is that I should appreciate the little things in life. And he didn't do that by telling me I should, but just by talking about and showing me those little things. Niche interests, relationship struggles, big events, family, connection, cars, music, people. Joe said that I should enjoy and explore the little things in life with no expectations that I would listen. But I'm going to, because he's right. Joe Pera Talks With You is one of the best shows I've ever watched, and unlike other shows I love that have massive ambitions with over-the-top visuals and a cast that makes people want to do a triple backflip, Joe and the gang just tell the story they want to tell in the most open and honest way they can. And it's executed so well that every time I hit play on that first episode, I quickly find myself glued to the screen as the seasons go by. Truthfully, I hope that one day this show can come back, but if not, it still managed to talk with me long enough. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy what we talk about too.